I recreated some of my favorite scenes from the Venom movies using VFX, and they went super viral. And today, I'm gonna show you how I made these videos.
How much longer? I'm hungry. Hey, you're making me look fat.
What? No, this is how you look.
Now you're calling me fat? VFX artist, my ass.
I really love the look of this black goo that wraps around things and transforms into Venom, and the VFX people who did it did an incredible job. They had hundreds of VFX artists from some of the top VFX studios in the Hollywood industry working on this. They've done some super complex simulations that would have taken weeks and months to make despite having such large teams. And here I am sitting, one guy with a computer, wondering how I can recreate this in a few weeks. So even though I had Venom by my side, I had to figure out a simpler approach given my resources and time limitations.
And skills.
Yeah. So I decided to really dive in and get a closer look at how Hollywood has made Venom over the years. As much as I love Venom VFX in the Venom movies, I also love how they did it in Spider-Man 3. It has a stringy, strand-like look that is just so cool, and I'm trying to see if there's a way to incorporate that into my effect, which will mostly be inspired by the new Venom movies. First, we shot some footage of me acting like I'm transforming. Some shots are locked off, but I wanted one with a moving camera just to make the scene feel more dynamic. Now on to the VFX. There's this really cool add-on in Blender called IVGen, which comes built in, so you just have to enable it here. This add-on basically lets you create IV on any mesh that you have selected in your scene. So let's see how we can use it to create a base layer of the Venom strands. I've got this Suzanne monkey head here with a subdivision surface modifier applied to it, and I'm going to place the 3D cursor at the bottom. Now select your model and press N, and go down to create and press add new IV. Let's customize the settings a bit. Now I'm going to disable grow leaves and increase the IV length to 3 meters. I'll also increase the addition weight to 0.3 and the branching probability to 1. Now add new IV. Cool, that looks good. Now let's give it some thickness. Add a new Bezier curve, and in the curve properties of the IV, set the taper object to be the new Bezier curve that we just added, and check map taper. Now you can select the Bezier curve and go into edit mode and scale it down until you're happy with the shape. Now to make it grow, you can animate the end value. So at the first frame, press I to set a keyframe and scrub forward a bit and set it to 1 and press I again. Now set the bevel resolution to 0 or 1 and add a subdivision surface modifier on it. Looks pretty good. Now let's make the Venom material for it. Go into the shader tab and create a new material. Make the color black and enable the node wrangler add-on. Press Ctrl T and bring in just the normal map of a rock material. You can download a material like this from Ambient CG or Polyhaven. Now I can animate the X location value to make the bumpiness move across the surface. So yeah, that's pretty much how I made the vines. Next, I made a model of myself using Make Human and lined it up exactly to match my footage. Then I grew IV in a few different places. Now to render it out, I turned my body into a shadow catcher and render out just the vines as a PNG or EXR sequence with alpha, which I can then composite in After Effects. So this is just one of the layers in the final effect. We still need a 3D Venom character in the end, so go ahead and grab a good model. This model is already rigged, so you can go into pose mode and line up the model as best as you can. From here, I'm just looking at reference and animating the bones manually to make the head wrap around my head. Once that's done, I rendered them out separately and stacked them in After Effects. Now I'm just carefully masking the layers to make it look seamless. To make the mask edges look better, I'm using the Roughen Edges effect to break up the edge and add some chaos. For this shot of the vine spreading on the ground, I have 3D tracked the shot since the camera is moving. I have this simple mesh that I sculpted, which I'm just animating to fill in the gaps and make it feel more fluid. You could also play with fluid sims if you've got the time for it, but I've got too many shots to do, so I better keep things simple. For the last shot after the transformation, I wanted to have the camera go around Venom all the way, so I needed to make a full CG environment. I modeled this whole thing and carefully placed a bunch of models from my own library that I've been building for several years now. Now with a little bit of animation, the scene is ready for render. For my Venom dog video, I basically used the same approach. My buddy and I tried a bunch of tricks to get my dog Dolo to act how I wanted, and I'm glad it worked quite well. On the VFX side of things, I modified a dog model that we had previously made and applied the Venom material. I adjusted the UVs and added some thick shiny hair using a particle system and modeled these Venom eyes. I animated the transformation and rendered it out. I also wanted her to do something like this horse, so we tried to get some reference of Dolo doing the same. Then I manually animated the dog rig based on this footage as reference, and it worked out quite nicely. I also want to break down how I did this effect of Venom's head snaking around the scene. First, I created a cylinder and added a bunch of edge loops. Then I selected just the longitudinal segments and pressed P to separate them into a different object. Now I can right click and convert it to a curve. From here it's the same as how I made the vines. Go into curve properties, bevel, and give it some depth. Now I can turn on proportional editing and rotate one end of it so that it gets twisted like this. I also added a displace modifier and set the texture type to clouds and coordinates to object and selected this empty. Now I can animate the empty and the displacement moves. For the end, I just created some ivy on a plane and placed it here. For the rig, I made a bendy bones chain with both ends being IK handles so I can easily animate the whole thing by just controlling this one bone. Then I parented the mesh using automatic weights and we're almost done. For the mouth movements, I animated the jaw using the rig and I used shape keys to animate the lips, and that's it. Now that the VFX was all done, it was time to get into editing and sound design. I use DaVinci Resolve Studio for this whole process. I bring in all the shots into my timeline and start trimming them so the scene flows naturally. Next, I bring in all the sound effects and music and time them all up. Audio is very important, so I try my best to get it sounding good. As a VFX artist who spends way too long making these visuals, it's natural to feel tired by the time the VFX is done and not pay enough attention to the audio. But don't make that mistake. Good audio is just as important as good visuals. Finally, some tweaks in the color grading tab, just pushing and pulling the color wheels and the curves a bit to make things pop, and here is the final result. And a few weeks later, this happened to my dog.
I love dogs.
Alright everyone, it's been great sharing this stuff with you. I have a really exciting VFX breakdown coming next week, so keep an eye out for it. I hope you learned something useful out of this one, and if you happen to make something, be sure to send it my way. Leave a comment here and let me know what you'd like to see me do next, and I'll see you in a new video very soon. Bye!